Okay, I've redone my color palette with my flesh. Into this, this is my highlight color. It's white, Grumbacher red, and a small touch of this color. This color is cadmium red deep, cadmium yellow deep, and white. This is obviously red. This is a color mixture that I pulled away from this, and I'm going to add it to this. This is a mixture of phthalo blue, lemon yellow, and white. And this color is going to be my shadow color for this color. And some of it will go into this. Or this, rather, will go into that. But this color here is what I'm going to go over with in my shadow colors. But not by itself. I'm taking some of it on my brush, going into this flesh color. I think it would make a much better flesh shadow tone, because it's still the flesh, but it almost like disappears into the flesh color. So let's see if this will work. Oh yeah, I like that much better. Much better. I'm wetting my brush right here. Oh yeah, I do like that a lot better. That's a natural. Seems like it's a more natural shadowed flesh. And as far as the complexity of the skin and the body and the anatomy, what shadows and what doesn't, a child's foot isn't that defined, just like its fingers and its nose and its different features of its parents. It's not really dominant in its face or its features, but it's there enough for me to see it and say, hey, it's going to have that, or hey, it's going to have this. And as trying to paint it in its uniqueness to add to for the overall effect, the experience of it. That's what I'm looking for. And as you can see, I'm painting way inside of the lines of what I've designated as face. Like I said before, I painted it bigger than what I knew it was going to be. And right now I'm just blocking in the face, blocking in the head where I know it will be. I'm going over the shadow parts that I had in the same color, over the same color, into all the shadowed parts that I had. This way, when I add the lights, the highlight, it's going to really give me that extra oomph, that pop that I want. Right up under the hairline. The hairline's much more than what I wanted it to be. It looks like a bowl on his head. But I'm going to go right above the line that I give him. And I'm going to go ahead and do it this way. Try to make it a little bit more natural of a look. As far as the hairline itself goes. And like I said, a child's eyebrows really ain't got no definition to it. Just like the features and such, what have you, it's not going to be defined that much. And onto this, I'm going to go ahead and add more thinner. And I'm mixing it all in that one flesh tone. But I'm adding more of the green, because I realize that this is going to be a very large area for this particular color to go into the shadows. And I'm leaving a small space so I can tell where the chin of the child ends and the shoulder begins. And I'm going to go ahead and put this in. So that when I add my flesh tone, my regular flesh tone, and it looks weird probably right now, but it's okay. And I'm going to go add it right here. And right here on his forearm. And this part right here was shadow, but I can deal with that later. Right here is a small part of arm. Right in here. Now notice I'm keeping the green right in this area. That way I know where his arm will is and where his little chest begins. Same way with this. I'm going to add just a little bit on his stomach, but I'm not marking all the green out because I want that green to still be there. On the inside of the leg right here, I'm going to add a little bit more thinner. You got to be careful how much thinner you add with these light areas first. If you notice, I'm not painting in big, heavy strokes right now. All I'm doing is blocking everything and giving everything a mask tone. And then I can go in and correct the shadows and what have you. Right down here, his little diaper is. I'm going to wipe my brush off. I'm going to go into this tone now. And I might have to add a little bit more white to it, which I'll go ahead and do that now. But nothing like this right here. And none of these colors I initially mixed with a brush. I mixed them with a palette knife. So I'm going to go ahead and go in this. Oh yeah, that's much brighter than the shadow. But I'm going to overlap the shadow color. That way I got something to blend. And I'm going to paint a little bit more than what I needed there. And over here as well. On his feet. On his body, and I'm thinning my paints down as to use them a little bit more, and just a little bit more white, because you can thin an oil color so much that oils are actually transparent. It's when you add white they become opaque, but you can thin it down so well and so much that it actually does become opaque. Transparent. That I don't want that right now. This is still the beginnings of the painting, so I still want some things left so that I can use it to benefit the picture. And the fingers, I can do the fingers later. I can lay that color in, but I would rather do it in shadow first, so that I can pick out the fingers and then paint them just like the toes. But right now I've got what I wanted, and I can begin to blend some of these soft colors in and give it a more unified appearance before I lay my highlights in, because I don't want the highlights to be blended in to where they go correspond or they're going to break up my shadows. Because believe it or not, the shadows in a painting are sometimes more important than the highlights, because sometimes in a painting what defines that painting is the shadow. Because if you just see the highlight of an apple, you see it as an apple, but it doesn't really have dimension, doesn't have depth to it. It's the shadow that gives that object on a painting the dimension it has, because a painting is just a two-dimensional surface. But when you add that shadow into it, that's when it starts to take on an appearance of realness, and that is not original. I didn't come up with that. That has been known for however long art has been going, which is a very long time. But again, if you notice, I'm not really going into any detail with the face. I'm just putting highlight. I'm just putting the flesh color in. And I'm really not eager about doing the eyes, because I don't really know where the child's eyes will be looking. So I have to define where that will be. But at the same time, I have to keep the highlight, the shadow, I have to keep it alive. Now in the nose, I'm not going to define the nose real good, but I am going to put a line, a distinctive line right here. I'm not giving it shape or form right now, I'm just giving it a distinctive line, so as I can know where my highlight should go and how the shadow should go. So it's not very defined right now. I don't know if you can really see it or not. Hopefully you can see it better than up close, but I can't get it too close because my light is right up under us. So if you notice right in here, I've got 1, 2, 3 colors going on. This is going to serve as a medium shadow, whereas down here, this is going to be taken out by bold shadow. As light crosses over the leg, obviously the light can't go through the leg, so it's going to be given the appearance of a better shadow, as though it's placed just right there. Whereas this one, it's only got 1, 2 colors. And this is, again, for the reason of the shadow. I don't want a shadow that would go over here to be over here. It's not going to look right. That shadow would belong back here, and we'll trail it off out in here. This shadow right here will have some of this color in it, as to make it more real, and then we'll work on our bunny. But right now, I'm just going to take a few minutes, and I'm going to blend all this in. I don't know if y'all have seen some of the other videos that I've done, but I started painting when I was 13 years old. I remember my very first paint set, Rose Art from Family Dollar. Everybody knows Family Dollar. And I had seen a famous artist on television painting. I wanted to do it, so I rushed out and bought, and my parents bought me a little $5 set and the brush that came with it. So here I am trying my hand at what I saw on television and failing miserably. Oh, I was so disappointed. I was so hurt. I thought, oh, I can't do this. There's no way I can do this. No way I can do this. But I stayed at it, and found different things to work and prayed hard. Let me tell you, people, prayer works. God is good and He is faithful. It took years and years and years and years for me to finally understand that I wasn't doing anything wrong. I wasn't using the wrong things to do the results, to get the results that I wanted. I just didn't know how to apply it. So I was about 18 when I first started working, and I went to work with my dad, and my very first check, I had bought a paint set of from this individual at a local store, and I painted. I wanted to paint just like I seen him on television paint, and I got the paints out and the brushes out, and I should have done some homework on it, but I didn't. I thought, well, I could just do it now. Well, yet again, I failed miserably. Simply because I didn't understand the technique. There's application, then there's technique. Technique is how you do it. Applying is how. Application is the way you do it. Technique is how you do it. So after many canvases and trial and error and really good paintings, I sold my very first painting. I think I sold it for like $20, and I can't even remember what it was. And today, as I stand here doing this, looking back, I can truly say God is good. I'm probably sure many of y'all don't want to hear this and all this and that and the other, but I want to share. And y'all ain't gonna get a whole overabundance of it. Y'all just gonna get that, and we're gonna move on. So down in here, I've been blending down in here, and I'm just taking my brush and I'm just wiggling it across the color to blend the colors in like this. And if I go out of the line, well, that's fine too, because it's not completely finished right now. And if you notice, I haven't gone up in this color. I've only gone where the colors met, and there's a reason for that, because I don't want this brighter tone of flesh to be any further in the dark tones than it has to be. That loses the effectiveness of that dark tone. And of course, the child's chest isn't very defined. It's not like he's got six packs there. So I'm just going to go ahead and phase that on out, and phase this part on out, and blending as I go. This whole process I'll be blending, adding and blending, blending and adding, making, breaking, and remaking, until I get that particular look that I'm wanting. Now, I think I'll go ahead and add the fingers in, but I'm going to do it with shadow. And the shadow that we're using right now is going to be consistent of green, because the green is our dark flesh shadow. So I'm just going straight into the green with the same brush. I'm going to put my palette down, and I'm going to pull my easel a little bit more closer to me. But first I need to get my model stick, and this is a very useful tool, by the way. I hold it and I can work like this right here, but my son thinks it's a lightsaber, and he loves to fight with it. So I have to keep it up from him or he'll break it on me. So into this, if his hand is up like this, then there's going to be shadowed fingers. And I'm not doing a whole bunch of shadowed fingers. I'm just giving it the lines that I need it to have to give it some what I need it to have. I'm going to add back in here. It's going to be that shadow back here that I had earlier. A little bit of flesh tone. And up under this finger, I'm just going to add to where I see the shadow already that I put in before. And onto that, I'm going to add a purple shadow that's closest to the skin. And then I'm going to add some highlight to it. And because it doesn't really need to be defined right now, it'll be defined once I add the white, the light, the highlight colors to it. So there's really no blending that I can do right there. And as far as the feet go, I can take this and I can do this with it. And that's probably as far as I can get with it, with the foot. Because I need to add the toes and the different things. So in this one I'll go ahead and do that as well. And blend it and caress it and go over it real good and real nice, real fine. Let's see. And the fingers, I think we go ahead and do the fingers. I'm hoping. But I won't use this brush. I'll use a different brush. One of the brushes, we were originally using 3 brushes and they were all brights. Well, I'm thinking about using a smaller brush than a bright, and it would be, and it's just enough brush to give me just the line, just a line that I need. That's not it. So that's not anything. Let's see here. I might just use, well, no. Here we go. This is a small bright, a very small bright, very thin, and I'll use it instead of the other one. This way it gives me a little bit more work, a workable, little bit better manipulative power over the paint. This here's dry, so I ain't going to use my wall stick right now. I'm just going to go ahead and do the fingers, the underneath fingers. And if I need to take something out, I can. But I'm not digging into my paint. I'm just taking a small part from the outside of the area, and I'm just doing the other finger. I'm not doing the whole finger. And this is just to give me just a little bit of edge, so I can understand and know how to paint the shadow in. And that way I don't even know if you can see that or not. I wish I could get this a little bit closer. Can you see this area right here? Okay. When I'll go ahead and do this to the other fingers as well. These fingers up here will be a little bit more defined. And I'll just do it across like this. Again, this has got to do with application. If you paint a banana, everybody knows the banana goes this way, like you know, a shape of a banana. But when you paint a banana, you paint it in one way. You paint the highlights and shadows of a banana one way, but you affect it the other way. That's application and technique. Right now I'm doing an application. And again, these fingers are not going to be that defined. It might look like I'm painting them defined, but I'm not. I'm just putting them in where I know they should go. And I'm going to use the shadow to define them as fingers. So let's go ahead and add the thumb in there. My highlight color is what I'm using, but I'm going further up to where the highlight meets the original color. And so I'm go ahead and put the thumb right here, but I'm not going to add it. I'm not going to contribute anything else to it except for there it is. Simply because, like I said, I'm going to define define it, not define it. I'm going to define it with the shadow. Again, I feel very confident with this um, uh, technique and this application. Let's go ahead and start in on our shadow, which is going to be, I'm going to use a different shadow than green, because I want something a little bit more definitive. The green is a good color for a massive, well, it's not good for defining small fingers and small toes. So I'm going to use a mixture of blue and red, and I'm going to create a purple. Purple is the color of a true shadow, but I'm not going to use much of it, of course. This is only a definitive method of use of the color purple. And I'm going to use a small touch of the green. It's simply because it has the white in it, and it can stay with the color scheme of the whole painting. And you can see it's a little green. Not much, but it's there. Alright, in with the fingers, with this one, I'm going to go ahead and come on this side, and I can define them with the shadows. Without taking anything from the finger itself. And by themselves they probably don't look like fingers, but I can add things surrounding them, like the rest of the environment that the fingers are in, and I can add more shadow against it, so that when you look at it, you're looking at fingers. You're not looking at just a big old blob of paint. Now with these fingers up here, I can have a little bit more fun and play with the highlights of them. But right now, I'm giving them the in-betweenness that fingers have, and the chubbiness, and all this I can put all that later. That's going to define my hand right there, so that I can work in other areas. That's less minutive. And that this can contribute to the little chubbiness of the child. But in the toes, I can also add them in the toes. Of course, this would be a very appropriate dark for the toes, simply because I've added a little bit of extra stuff to it when I did the underpainting of it in acrylic. And I did it so I could count the things out, count the toes out. And I did it as a small thing, but now down in the middle of the foot, I can add a little area where I can blend in, where I can blend in where the padding of the foot, you know, the sole of the foot, the bottom of the foot. Although a child, an infant, doesn't have this particular spot yet, it's still there, and we can just blend it in right here, and it can be used later when the highlights come on, when we add our highlights. And as far as doing the fingers, I go ahead and do the toes. I can do the toes on this foot with the highlight color like I did on the